Warren was listening to his staff's reports and kept glancing at his watch. He couldn't wait for the meeting to end. He had just returned to work after several months in the hospital. Having thanked the last speaker, he gave some instructions to the staff, and it was finally over. "Michael, did you find anything?" the man asked the younger manager, who was also his son. Michael's lips stretched into a satisfied smile as he handed his father a folder. "Of course I did, even though it wasn't easy or cheap." Warren stopped for a moment. He was going to learn the name of the man who had died recently, thereby saving his life. Warren got a heart transplant a few months ago, and that file had the name of his donor. He badly wanted to know who that man was. Warren opened the folder, and his face immediately turned pale. "Dad, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling all right?" Michael ran to his father, getting worried. Warren sank into his chair. "It's okay. I'm okay. Don't worry." "Do you know this name? Did you know this person?" Michael didn't stop. "Even more so, we were friends once," Warren answered with a sigh. "Friends, but were we really?" Warren couldn't help but go down memory lane. Warren came from a wealthy family. Despite the fact that his father achieved everything in his life without education, he was dead set on his son getting a university degree. The man didn't let his son have any say in the matter. Warren wasn't interested in his education. He did attend his classes, but all of his assignments were done by April, Warren's college friend. The young woman was madly in love with Warren, so she was always willing to help him with his schoolwork. But one day, she got sick. She started missing classes and needed to catch up on her own schoolwork, so she advised Warren to contact Peter. Peter was a nerd. He spent his days and nights studying and was one of the best students at the university. But Peter had one problem. He was from a very poor family. His father was an alcoholic who couldn't hold a job, and his mother worked day and night to make ends meet. Peter wanted to find a part-time job to help his family, but his mother was against it. She didn't want her son to be distracted from his studies. The woman firmly believed that getting a university degree would help him get a good job later in life. Moreover, science has always been easy for Peter. He was thin, pale, and wore glasses, and always kept to himself. Peter's appearance made it clear that he wasn't fate's favorite. At that time, Warren noticed Peter's existence for the very first time, although they'd attended many classes together in the past couple of years. "Hey, listen, do you want to earn some extra cash?" he asked, choosing the right moment. Peter looked at Warren in bewilderment. Warren explained what he wanted from Peter. It went against Peter's beliefs, but the money... he really needed the money. He thought about how he could help his family and how he would buy a gift for his mother. The poor woman hadn't gotten anything from anyone in a long time. Thus began the collaboration between two completely different young people. Warren liked seeing Peter's emotions when he got paid. Warren felt like a benefactor, so he didn't limit himself to hiring Peter to do his schoolwork. He invited the poor man home and gave him his things. Peter could never afford to buy himself such clothes. He also invited him to lunch out. One day, Warren invited Peter and April to a restaurant to celebrate his passing an important class. The young people were served by a waitress named Amanda. Warren knew her well. It was obvious that they had some kind of relationship. This upset April very much. She couldn't take her eyes off the young woman. Moreover, April understood that Amanda was much prettier than her. But it wasn't only April who couldn't stop watching Amanda, but Peter, too. That day, the young man realized that he'd fallen in love. Meanwhile, Amanda had a rather pragmatic outlook on life. Sure, she liked Warren and maybe even loved him, but the fact that he was rich was much more important for the young woman. Amanda's friends advised her to make Warren jealous to make sure she didn't lose his attention. What men care about the most is what they know doesn't entirely belong to them. Amanda decided to take the advice of her friends. Moreover, she decided to use Peter for this purpose. It happened at a party where Peter ended up thanks to Warren, who also invited Amanda. The woman took advantage of the situation and started paying all kinds of attention to Peter, and even went outside into the backyard with him. However, instead of causing a scene in a fit of jealousy, Warren simply switched his attention to another woman. Amanda was hysterical. Her plan didn't just fail, but even backfired, ruining everything. To rectify the situation, the woman came up with a rather cruel plan. The next time Warren came to the restaurant, she told him a tearful story of how Peter made a pass at her and wouldn't take no for an answer. "I thought I meant something to you, but instead of protecting me from your perverted friend, you were having fun with other women." Amanda pursed her lips. She was very cunning and knew how to get what she wanted. Warren bought into her lie like a fool. Amanda demanded that he take revenge on Peter. Of course, Warren wasn't going to beat Peter up. The mere sight of the nerdy young man aroused pity in him. So he chose a different approach instead. He arranged for a lavish celebration of his birthday at the best restaurant in the city. Of course, Amanda, Peter, and April were all invited. Warren knew that Peter would stand out among the rich guests, so he instructed the doorman to implement a dress code for his guests. "I want my celebration to be perfect, so I'm asking you not to let in anyone who doesn't look like they belong here, even if they claim to have been invited." The doorman nodded understandingly. When Peter approached the entrance, the doorman blocked his path. "I'm sorry, sir, you must have made a mistake. I have to ask you to leave," he said in a cold tone, in response to Peter's assurances that he was invited to the event. At that moment, a taxi pulled up and Amanda got out. "What's going on here?" the woman asked. "This poor man is trying to get inside," the doorman answered, addressing the woman with the utmost respect in his voice. "That's just shameful. Some people need to learn their place and what dignity is," the woman replied, casting a cold look at Peter. "Amanda, what are you doing?" Peter asked in bewilderment. But she turned away and silently went inside. Warren was already waiting for her at the entrance. He showered her with compliments, completely ignoring Peter's presence. At the very door, Warren turned around and said to Peter, "You shouldn't forget your place. This isn't your level. Maybe this will teach you not to hit on other men's girlfriends." It's unclear how much of the situation April got to witness, but it was enough. A couple of minutes ago, the woman was in love with Warren, but now all she felt for him was disdain and disgust. April took Peter by the hand and said, "Let's get out of here. We don't belong with these people." Warren watched as the two people he thought were his friends disappeared into the distance and felt very sad. Thinking back to that day years later, Warren could confidently say that it was one of the worst days of his life. After graduation, Warren got a job at his father's company, and after his sudden death, he took over its leadership. Amanda got what she wanted. She married Warren. They had a son, Michael. Unfortunately, Amanda wasn't a good mother. She was annoyed by the baby's crying and his neediness, so she didn't really take part in his upbringing. All she was interested in was money, clothes, and entertainment. Due to his busy work schedule, Warren spent little time with his son, although he did try to be a good father. Michael was raised by a nanny. The marriage of Warren and Amanda was clearly a failure. They quickly lost interest in each other's lives and simply continued to live together as roommates. When Michael grew up, he also got a job in the family business. He was the one to notice that his father was having problems with his health and insisted on him going to see a doctor. The results of the checkup showed serious heart problems. One day, Warren lost consciousness, and when he woke up, he'd found out that he had gotten an emergency transplant surgery. Michael paid a lot of money to move his father up on the donor heart recipient list. Warren also learned that Amanda no longer lived with the family. "Dad, I asked her to go. Your marriage was over a long time ago. She's cheating on you and has been for many years. I got tired of it, so I told her to get out and go live with one of her lovers," Michael explained. Ever since then, Warren had been haunted by one question only. Who was the man whose heart was now beating in his chest? And having received that information from Michael, Warren learned that Peter was his heart donor and that April was his wife. Warren and Michael drove up to April's house. A young woman named Lily opened the door for them. "I'd like to talk to April," Warren said. "That's my mother. She's in the garden. I'll get her for you." "What are you doing here?" Warren heard April's cold voice. She clearly wasn't happy to see him. Warren asked Michael and Lily to let them speak in private. The man showed April the documents. "So you humiliated him, ruined your friendship, and now he ended up saving your life?" April was surprised. "Yes, apparently so. I'm very ashamed of what I did. I'm truly, truly sorry. Please forgive me if you can." April was very hostile at first and didn't even want to continue their conversation. But Warren insisted, and she softened up a little bit. April said that, despite his success at the university, Peter never managed to succeed in life, so they always lived quite modestly. Peter died in a car accident. He was hit by a drunk driver. "I would like to visit his grave. I was awful to him, and I'm very sorry," Warren said. Warren and April met again to go to the cemetery. After that, Warren kept trying to run into her as if by accident when the woman was on her way home from work or the supermarket. He always offered to give her a ride or help carry her bags. April's anger and resentment receded eventually, and she forgave Warren. She started remembering the feelings that she once had for him. A year later, Warren proposed to her, and she agreed to marry him. At their wedding, their children, Michael and Lily, surprised them with the fact that they had been dating for a long time and were also going to get married. All the youthful mistakes remained in the past, and ahead of them all was a new, happy life.